Discover Help presents Stress-Free Living with Ray Samich and Mr. Stress-Free Ratanjit S. Sandhi. This audio program is an unscripted and unrehearsed conversation between Ray and Ratanjit. It is shared with you in hope of adding value to your life. We encourage you to listen to this program in its entirety to receive the full impact of its message. Sit back, relax, open your heart, mind, and soul to this edition of Stress-Free Living.
This is Stress-Free Living. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Ray Samich, and I'd like to introduce you to my longtime radio colleague, co-host of this program for over 30 years, and my spiritual brother, Ratanjit Sandhi. Ratanjit, how are you today?
Wonderful, Ray. How are you? You're looking glowing today.
Well, I'm just excited to be here with you and with our wonderful guests that we have a chance to interact with. And speaking of that, if you would like to join us on our Zoom calls, we always welcome you to do that. Just visit our Stress-Free Living radio channel on YouTube, and you'll see the link, and you can join us for pre-show, during show, post-show conversations on a more personal basis with you. Ratanjit, a lot of the topics that we have discussed over these years come to me because I see people, I talk with people, interact with situations, I'll see a headline, whatever it might be, that just kind of triggers a thought that I think is worthy of discussing. I was recently at an event with just a large group of wonderful people. Just so many of them are just salt of the earth people that really want to do the right thing in their life for their families. And obviously, when you get groups of people like that, you talk about success, you talk about different levels of accomplishments in your life. And it just seemed like even though these were wonderful, gracious, hardworking people, money is a big part of how we think about our success. And obviously, over the years, we've discussed success in the past, and we know it's so much more than money. But why is it our human nature, or why is it our education process, or what is it that kind of ties the word success? You even see it so many times with the SUCCESS, the S's as dollar signs. I mean, if you just Google that, if you just go out on the internet, you'll see that many times they'll replace the S's with dollar signs because it's just the natural tendency to define success monetarily. What is your thought? Is that our leadership of our world, our educators of our world, putting that thought into our head first and foremost?
Yeah, it's, basically, this is how we have been taught right from here, our kindergarten, school, and high school, and college. Be success, be something, be amount to something. Make some, make a name for yourself, or make money, and ultimately it boils down to money. And examples given on we are systematically brainwashed by media and books and by everyone, and looking at this is the most successful person on earth because he owns so many billions of dollars and so on and so forth. So this is a perception which is given to us, but the reality is totally different. And if you go back maybe 100 years or so, a success was defined by the character of a person. Even if the person had so much money, they say, no, his character is bad. He's really not a good person. So ultimately, and now the character, even our banks, they used to have three C's. One of those three C was a character. Right now, there is no character. So
Right.
suddenly we have taken the character out of the equation completely. Regardless, there are two things which matter. money and power.
Right.
And so, as a consequence of that, the society, the human race is paying enormous price for that. Enormous price for that. So, it reminds me of a story. There was a village uh, on the river in India, and this villagers would go and catch the fish on the river and bring it home, and he would have dinner, and then in afternoon he will have a siesta. He'll go to sleep, and again this his life was very very simple, and he was living in a small hut. And so suddenly there was a, a tourist, uh, an American tourist who was who understood heard about this beautiful village on the river. So he went there to see the beauty of the village, and he ran into this guy who was fishing. And so he says, what do you do? So, what do you mean, what I do? I fish and I eat and I go to sleep. And I said, my goodness, what a waste of time. And he saw the abundance of fish. So he said, you can catch those fish and have them repackage, have a freezer, and freeze them and ship around the world, and you can make so much money. So this guy, he said, so then what? So you can have bigger home and a car and this and that. So somehow we talked this guy into this thing. So he guided him how to do these things. So suddenly the short end of the story is that that person became very successful. He started shipping around the different part of the world. And now he's got so much money and his food habits changed. He started eating more junky food and he gained so much weight. And suddenly in few years, his health was a crisis. He had a heart attack, and suddenly this success basically took away his real basic fundamental happiness. So this is what happens. So you look at this country, the richest country on earth. Do you know how many people are obese?
Well, I know it's very, majority of people. I know that. Yeah.
and and we spend close to $4 trillion on healthcare. So basically, based on that, the sickest nation on earth is US
Yeah.
because of the money, because of the greed. And we call it success. If somebody defined you success, look, you will have a bigger home, a bigger car, and bigger this if you are successful. But you have to sacrifice your health. You have to sacrifice your relationship. You will have 4 marriages. You will have very few friends because there only are people who are interested in your money would be friends.
Right.
So your life is hollow. You are actually end up becoming the most unsuccessful person on earth if you follow the equation of money, right?
I agree with you 1,000%. The The first thing I wanted to ask you, though, is that why do we at the court, why do so many of us look to money as being that level of success, that definition of success? Is that a human nature thing? Is that just where our, because you always talk about how we're built with survival tendencies. Okay, that's who we are. Even as a caveman, the caveman knew that he had to protect himself from the cold and from the bears that were outside and things. So he found a way to protect himself. So does it go back to that money can buy the protection, can buy the house, can buy the clothes to keep us warm, the coats, and then we just go from there with, well, gee, this is a nicer coat, and this is a bigger home, and this is a fancier that, and this is that an evolution of how we are made, how we are created, or is that taught to us? Are our parents unintentionally giving us some wrong information, or is it coming from our school system? Where is it coming from that we think we know in our hearts love is important? We know friendships and family are critical to us. We know that. I mean, you see I was at a little birthday party for my 6-year-old grandson last night, and he just hugs everybody. He's just so happy to see his family and his cousins. So love is so basic, and yet we evolve that quickly to say, I want nice things. I want wealthy things. I want, how does that happen?
We have talked on this show many times. Basically, intrinsically, we are born in this human body mode. So we think me synonymous with this human body.
Right.
I am this human body. My identity is the human body, my fingerprints or my face. So basically, this is who I am. So I consider myself to be the human body. And in this conception, in this reality which we create, protection of the human body becomes the primary objective. So human body is very vulnerable to heat, cold, hurt. So constantly you have to protect. So you need a shelter, you need, and then if you don't have enough food, it'll die. If you don't have enough water, it cannot survive. So all these things have to be there. So fear of not having enough, insecurity, we are vested in, and then we have to collect more things so I'm secure. So the greed happens. The more you have, it is known the more you want. If the more greedy you are, automatically the more greed happens. So this insecurity, and then finally being yourself, I am separate. So suddenly there is another human being. So a comparative thing happen. Am I better than him? I am better than him. So ego comes into play. So suddenly I want to have a jacket which is more expensive than him. So I look better. I need to have a purse which is more expensive and advertise in the media for 2,000 or 5,000 or $100,000. So when I'm having that bags, suddenly somebody is going to recognize that I'm carrying a $100,000 bag. So suddenly the ego comes into play. So all these problem gets compounded. And without understanding that that reality is not who you are, until you understand the fundamentals of our own life, we are going to be hijacked by the information which we firmly believe is truth. So our truth is skewed and erroneous, and all we have to do is correct that truth, and things will start to fall in place. And regardless of how wealthy a nation is, regardless of how well educated you are, until your truth is available to you and you practice and live that fundamental truth, you are completely living in falsehood and going to be hijacked by your own ignorance. Right?
So you really do think that as long as we are just thinking our identity is our human body, it's just our uniqueness as opposed to oneness, that we will have that tendency to identify success by what's in it for me. And when I talk about what's in it for me, I want money because that allows me to buy things, right? It allows me to be safe and secure and better than other people and have a bigger car and a nicer suit or whatever it is. There's another thing, and I just want to introduce this before we go to break. For the newer, younger generation, while money is still in play, certainly it always will be in that mode. But there's a new thing that has really popped up relative to the digital era that we're approaching, which is popularity, even if it isn't monetary. And by that, what I mean is the YouTube and the social media, the Instagram, all of these people that have millions of likes, millions of followers, and they can put out a message that goes viral, and suddenly 10 million people are seeing this. And that usually does relate to money eventually, because they can now become um, and there's a term that I'm an influencer. So now companies will pay them to promote their products, and there is a monetary thing. But even before it goes to that level, just their popularity is deemed as success. And as an older person, it just confuses me totally, because many of these people don't really have a talent. They don't really have an expertise about them. They haven't really become extremely well knowledgeable on any topics that add value. They really aren't great motivators or inspirers. They're not really teachers, educationally speaking, but there's something about them that they identify, and they now use this quality or this technique, or even if it's just their simplicity of thought, and they go viral and they suddenly have 100 million followers. I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
To see these people, that is, to our younger people, in many cases, even more meaningful than financial success. Some, again, I learn a lot from my grandkids. I learn more from them, I think, than they learn from me. And they ask me, how many followers do you have, Papa? Okay, because they judge and they evaluate success based on how many followers you have.
Yes.
Okay, and I know that does equate eventually to money, but in the short term it doesn't. But that popularity is their definition of success. What do you think about that? Is that a short term trend, or is that where we're going with our life?
Actually, it boils down to my ego. I want ego is something which is more you have, more you want. It's like a disease. And many times it bypasses other things. You will sacrifice, you'll kill for it, you will destroy things for it. Because ultimately, this ego is an illusion that I am better than him. It's I'm somebody. Suddenly it gives you a false sense of power, false sense of control, and suddenly everything. Once you get on that path, you are lost because there is never enough. So all these things, whether fear, greed, insecurity, ego, lust for power, all these things, any of these things, a mix of that is basically controlling us.
Yeah.
So,
Especially if we tie those into our definition of success, which I think, we all want some level of success. So we better define it and understand what it is if we're
so
trying to attain it.
and after you take the break, I'm going to ask you a question.
All right, I can hardly wait. Are you going to ask me now so I can think about it during the break?
No.
Oh, okay. I always give you that break. I let you think about it. All right. We're trying to define success today. What is your definition of success? If you're probably tuned into this show, you probably know it's not money or it's not power, but it's a reality around us. We have people all around us, maybe family and friends, that are struggling with the definition of success. So we're trying to solve that problem for all of us here today and reduce our stress in the process. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Please stay with us for more of Stress Free Living. All right, we have 90 seconds. Please feel free to open your mic and join us. A lot of people came in here once we got going, so welcome to all of you. Who has a thought or a question?
Quick, who is rich? He who desires nothing. Who is poor? A miser.
Oh, I missed that. Actually, say it one more time.
Who is rich? He who desires nothing. Who is poor? A miser.
Hi, Kayla. How are you? We can't hear you. You have to. Hi, Rakesh ji. How are you?
Namaste. Good morning to all. Just
Good
a
morning.
quick thought. So, you know, happiness to me is an unconditional acceptance of yourself. And money cannot make you happy, but money is not the source of unhappiness either. So I don't see that as, it's all bad, all good. Same for fame. There are very rich people, famous people in our history who have been a model of happiness. So, it's totally irrespective of money, fame, whatever could, those kinds of things. So it's really, unless you accept yourself, fully, the way you are, you're not happy. Whether you have money, you don't have money, whether you have fame, you don't have fame, it won't matter.
All right. Thank you. That gives me something that we will follow up on. Appreciate that thought, Rakesh. All right. We're coming back live here on the radio. And we are back on Stress Free Living. Ray Samich and Ratanjit Sandhi with you today discussing how we define success. And we have some youngsters that are listening to us here today on our Zoom. We love to see our young people, although all of us that are participating in this show are young at heart, but we also have some young physical people with us here today. And that's great because if we can put some of these thoughts into our young people's heads at an earlier age, I think it's adding so much more value. All right, Ratanjit, I'm standing by. I've been anxiously awaiting. What is the question that you want me to answer?
Now, your favorite uh, vacation place is Hawaii. So supposing you are given a ticket and expense paid trip to Hawaii. So you go to Hawaii.
Okay.
So after 2 weeks of stay, how do you consider whether you had a successful trip in Hawaii? How would you define the success in your trip?
Wow. This may take me a while to give you all the ways that I define success. Um, one would be that because it is such an incredibly beautiful place, I would want to say that I had the opportunity to really appreciate God's beauty that He bestowed on that. So I would hope that I would be able to say I had time to visit a lot of the different parts of nature that make that so exquisite. Part of it would be that I would never go there alone because I want to share all of that beauty with someone I care about. So I would hope that I would be there with my wife or with other people that are very special to me so that when I see something and enjoy it, I wouldn't just say it was special to me. I would know that it was special to us and that we shared that together. Um, Safety, that nobody got hurt, nobody got sick. Everybody that was up there, was able to enjoy it to its fullest because we were feeling physically healthy and enjoying it. Um, those are the three first things that come to my mind that I would say I would say that was a wonderful trip and it was a successful trip. It's probably more, but those are the top three.
You know, supposing you saw all those, there were hundreds of places you could visit, small things. There was, and you visited all those things, and you took the pictures, and you got the artifacts or some gifts from each place, and you name it success. So, or you went to the most beautiful restaurants and beaches and enjoyed yourself. So all these are all physical. So in there is another scenario in your exploring all these fancy places. You went to one of these remote places and you met with this guy who basically was very spiritual, and suddenly you had a meeting with him and had some time to spend with him, and he basically uh, was extremely content. He was not with a lot of money. He was living in a small place, not very fancy, but he was very happy. So suddenly it dawned on you that you had the courage to ask him, so, sir, if I ask you a very personal question, so what makes you happy? Why are you so happy as compared to all these other people? So he smiled and he says, I'm very contented. I'm satisfied with what I have. And one of our uh, listeners who participants said that once you accept what you have is also called as a happiness or success. So this contentment which comes from uh, being ultimately grateful for what you have gives you a satisfaction under each situation. You begin to enjoy every situation. When you eat a, a small meal, not fancy meal, once you enjoy every morsel of that food intaking, that is happiness. once you breathe fresh air and you enjoy the fresh breath, that is happiness. Once you see with your eyes a sunset, that is happiness. So once you are contented and you see all these gifts around us experienced by your senses, it gives you enormous happiness. So once you understood the secret of true happiness and you brought with you from this trip, then I would call that as a successful trip. Not just by exploring other things or having good food and visiting all kinds of things or having all kinds of picture. Those are basically all egoistic things which you are showing people, my goodness, this is where I went. But true happiness is real success comes from the fact that you found the secret of happiness is ultimate inner contentment, right?
So I'm glad you just shared that, and you referred to the gentleman that is part of our Zoom group that talked about acceptance, and I wanted to get back there too. One of the reasons I want to restate something is that the first 20 minutes or so of our show, it was almost like I was being critical of people who want money or people who want power or fame. And I wasn't trying to do that. And if that came across that way, I apologize, because I don't think there's a problem with having money. I don't think there's a problem with having power. I don't think there's a power with having fame. I think if you use that in the right way with your life, that's the ultimate blessing, because now you have the platform and you have the resources to add value to the world at a much higher level. My critique of those things was, what do you do with it? And why are we not satisfied with that level of quote success that we've attained? And why do we always want more then? And one of the things that I noticed in the recent gathering that I was at of, as I mentioned, many highly successful people, is that it seems like our first level of success is having money. Our first goal for many, many people is, okay, I actually have some extra money in my bank account that I don't need to pay the bills with. I have a little security. And I now live in a nice house, and I now have a safe car to drive, and I now can wear maybe not $10,000 suits, but I'm wearing $500 suits instead of going to the thrift store and getting it off the rack that I had to do a couple years ago. So there's an evolution of where we're at, and this at this point for so many people doesn't give them the contentment that you just talked about. Instead, it triggers them to say, but I'm still not happy. So I do want that $10,000 suit instead of a $500 suit. I do want a 10,000 square foot home instead of a 2,000 square foot home. And that's what puzzles me. That's what discourages me as people are trying to advance their life for success, is that there's something not fulfilling when they become the success that they thought they would be. It isn't enough. They don't want 10,000 followers, they want 100,000 followers. Okay, they want more, and that's what I'm trying to understand, how we can redefine success. Is acceptance, is that a big part of it? Is that, okay, I now have a 2,000 square foot home, I should accept that that's really all I need. That's plenty of space for me, and I should accept this as saying, okay, move on to something else because this home is great. I mean, where does acceptance fit in to what we should accept?
Before I go to that acceptance,
Okay.
what is how do you call a person who is rich? A person who has a lot of money, or person who has no wants or no needs? Once you understand a person who has a lot of money, generally people who are billionaire, they are most greedy people. The richer you are, the more miser you are. I have had many friends which are billionaires, and whenever I have gone to lunch or dinner with them, I have never seen them pay for the dinner. So they value their money, and so a person who is poor is a person who wants more. So the people who are billionaires are the poorest people on earth, because their mindset is part in greed, more and more and more. A person who is completely contented and happy, and they find happiness in small things. And if this billionaire who has this great home and never really had time to enjoy the home, he has 20 cars, never had time to enjoy a car. If you take a car for a ride and enjoy the pleasure of a teenager person who had a new car and driving the new car, the thrill you get from that, the billionaire never has that thrill. In fact, there is somebody driving the car and he's engaged in either a phone call or something else. So he's never there in the situation. When they are eating the food, they are thinking of something and dictating something, and they hardly can enjoy the taste of the food. So, fundamentally, until you have contentment, you are the poorest guy. Once you have contentment, you are the richest person. Now, going to acceptance. Before I go to acceptance, do you have any questions or any comment on what I
Well,
said?
no. I love it, and I agree with you. I have been with many people just like that. I consider I'm not poor, but I'm not wealthy either. But I'm very content with where I'm at. I'm very content with the fact that I still enjoy driving my car. I still enjoy, putting the radio on and listening to the music as I'm driving in my car, because I'm in that moment. I am not trying to be, so absorbed with problems that are part of my life, part of everybody's life, that I can't enjoy those moments. So I can really appreciate what you're saying with that feeling of contentment, how that is so necessary, because we do have problems. We all have problems. And if we get so absorbed in just worrying about what you did or what is going to happen, then you can't enjoy that moment. So I appreciate that. Acceptance, isn't that part of being content? I mean, isn't that a natural part of that says, I can't change this moment. I can't change what happened. I can't control tomorrow. I can only accept now.
Acceptance is a byproduct. When you want acceptance, you are still part in your all worldly things, ego. I want to accept some. Ratanjit said, acceptance. I have to accept this is what your one mind is accepting and the other mind is saying, no, 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 I need more. Acceptance happens as once your contentment happens, you begin to enjoy every aspect of life. So that is acceptance. So acceptance is a byproduct. Acceptance, although it looks, it's like if you have a good health, you have no disease. If you have basically gone to the doctor for a medical test and they have conducted all kinds of executive checkup and they've given you a bill of good health, you can still have disease, which they have now detected.
Right.
And to be healthy is different than having a certificate of no disease.
Right.
Similarly, to have acceptance is different than having contentment, which comes from within us. And contentment, if it is not part in utter gratefulness, is not contentment. And contentment gives you energy to enjoy everything because you are grateful for the sunshine. You are grateful for the health. You are grateful for the vision to be able to see good scenery. You are grateful for smell. We are grateful for every sense, five senses given to you. This gratefulness suddenly results into acceptance. Acceptance cannot be practiced, and acceptance only happens when you live in utter gratefulness and contentment. Right?
All right. I'm really enjoying that last thought. We're going to take a quick break because we need to. And we're going to come back and wrap this up because if I've heard correctly, you're almost defining the word success as being in a state of gratefulness. And
Yes.
if that's as simple as this gets, we've accomplished something here today. We're going to take a short break. This is Stress Free Living. Please stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, everybody. Input time. Get 90 seconds. Kai's opened her mic.
It's been open a while. First of all, grace and peace to everybody, and first respect to Baba Ratanjit. So good to see you as always, Baba. So I want to say what I'm hearing sometimes too is the difference between success and a value system. As I know, Ratanjit, Mr. Samich, you were talking about, the young people and the swipes and the likes and all of that. It's a value system. So getting back to how we re-implement that in the family and maybe some social agenda as it relates to the value system, because that's what's going to kind of curb that they think they're successful because they've got a million likes and swipes. So yeah, I get that. So what I hear is, for me, I'm hearing success versus value system or core value. So gratefulness is a core value, but it's also something that is born out of contentment, right? But those are higher faculty understandings, or when your consciousness is opened up enough to understand the need for gratitude, right? So again, that's a value system. So when I think of success, I think of whatever you have set a goal at. If you say, for instance, I said, okay, it's Saturday, it's my Sabbath, I'm going to have some tea and relax, then I've had a successful day because that's what I've done, right? I meditated all morning already. I did 2 hours in, and then I got on here. I'm having my tea. I'm going to go back into prayer. I'm going to meditation. I don't eat till after 4 or 5. But my point is that today will be successful if I accomplish those goals. So I think that for me, I'm hearing, when I think of success, it's just a matter of, did you achieve what you set out to? It may not be what you consider successful or a goal. It may not be what someone else considers a goal, because that's the individuality of life based upon our experience and our exposure and our culture or where we come from, our heritage. So I think that there's so many kind of things playing into that term success, because really is as individual as we are as people, and yet we are all one. So what we deem as success or how we go about that success affects the oneness because
We need to come back here. We're talking, having great conversation. We're having wonderful conversations with our stress-free living audience. That is a part of our Zoom call, but we need to get back on the air. So apologize for cutting certain people off. Ratanjit, it's back to you and me for the last few minutes of the show here. And interesting thoughts that we heard back from our guest in terms of our personal level of accomplishment and our success, finding success in what we define as opposed to maybe what the world defines as success. What's important to us, what we're able to do. To do what we want, to be happy with where we're at in our life, and to be able to say, if I've accomplished what is important to me, that also kind of has the feeling of gratefulness in there. It has a feeling of this is important to me and I'm able to do it. And I'm grateful for the fact that I've been able to do what's important to me. We think of gratefulness in this mode of being our purpose, our acceptance, and our love of gifts given to us. Is there gratefulness also in our own definition of success and accomplishing what we define as success? Is that true gratefulness as well?
So after what I say, I don't think, please don't cut me off. So the moment I achieved my goal, the moment I use the word I, it is ego. So once you set goal and achieve that, is ego. Once you disappear completely and only see the hand of divine in everything happens through you and be grateful for that, that is what I'm talking about. You are completely unable to achieve anything without the power being present in your human body, giving you life. Because in absence of that divine power giving you life, you are basically a dead human body. You cannot even move an inch. So what are we talking about? I achieved this. So that is the biggest mistake we make. The gratefulness becomes absent from your thought the moment I use I, me, mine things. So once you see the hand and the wisdom of the power, universal power, oneness in you and in others, so then you become grateful for what has happened through you or whatever has happened through somebody else. You equally feel grateful for the achievement of others. So certainly that is a mindset which is going to give you contentment through gratefulness, and gratefulness is only for one thing and one thing alone. The gratefulness is my capacity to see the divine power in me constantly performing every thought and every act which I witness. Right?
So let's say that, and you always bring up the tremendous pianist that's up on a stage at Carnegie Hall, and how they get lost in the music. You always talk about that example, and they become the music for that performance, and they lose their identity. Okay, and I love that visualization. When that pianist stops, that amazing musician stops, then his ego often takes over again. And now he says, wow, I was amazingly good. I was superb today. He's grateful, though, in the fact that he is a brilliant performer. I'm grateful for the moment that I just had that I performed in.
No,
You're
no,
saying that's not really gratefulness, right?
no,
That
it's not.
that's ego.
The moment you say I performed is ego.
Okay.
So you witness the performance and you realize that was divine through you. You are as humbled after the performance as anything else. The moment you are not humbled after the great performance, you are part in ego.
So ego cannot exist in gratefulness.
No, they're totally opposite. It's like darkness cannot exist in the presence of sun. Similarly, ego cannot exist in the presence of gratefulness. And gratefulness is not for things. Gratefulness for the presence of the divine, which gives us the capacity to see, smell, taste, and all those five senses. Otherwise, we are not able to comprehend or experience any of these great things.
That's
So,
that's an that's an extremely powerful thought there, that they are opposites, like light and darkness are opposite. It really, because I think so often we think we are being grateful, and we assign that terminology and that feeling in our brain, like, okay, I'm very grateful for this, so so I'm in a very good place. I'm in a very spiritual place right now.
when you're practicing gratefulness and say, I'm grateful, you are feeding your ego.
Right, that's what you just revealed to me. It's yeah, I'm somebody special because I live in gratefulness.
Yeah.
Right. That I've never, after all these years, I've never connected those dots that way. I've always thought that if I'm in a state of gratefulness, then I'm doing the right thing. But that's really absorbed in my own ego to appreciate my gratefulness that way. Right? It's crazy. It's I've got to really wrap my arms around that thought, because I humbly don't know if I've ever been grateful without attaching my ego to it. I honestly don't know if I've
So
done that. I've
there's a difference between a gourmet food which tastes so good. Once you describe the taste, it waters your mouth, but you haven't tasted that. Once that food goes into it, you taste it. That is totally a different feeling. You cannot describe it. So, similarly, once you are in the gratefulness mode, you cannot describe it. It basically results into contentment, results into a happiness, results into ultimate success. Ultimate success of our human life is to experience that unconditional gratefulness, which immediately parks us into contentment and happiness. And you have at that moment really no desire to have anything, because you are everything in front of you, you begin to enjoy everything. You have a feeling, you are breathing, you are enjoying, you are being grateful for the capacity to breathe, your capacity to even comprehend that gratefulness. You are amazingly grateful for the feeling of gratefulness.
And that true gratefulness, I guess, ultimately is success.
Yes.
It really is our definition of success. Ratanjit, so I don't have to cut you off. We need to go. Thank you for letting that be your last word. And thank you to all of our wonderful audience for being with us. However, wherever you may be listening or watching, we're grateful for you. Remember, we're all playing the same game. Have a wonderful week. We'll talk to you again real soon.
Thank you.
Okay, we are off the air. Kai, again, I want to apologize too. I'm sorry, my radio, our booth person there, board operator, that's the word I was searching for, kept giving me the sign that we need to come back on, so I had to cut you off. I do apologize. Kim, let's go to you because she very politely raised her hand. We'll all have a chance to give us your thoughts, but since Kim raised her hand, we're gonna go to her first. Please give us your thoughts on today's show.
Thank you. This is an area that I struggle with because the ego is what has given me, I don't know, ego and courage, like the courage to make a difference, to do what needs to be done to cause positive change, right?
We are not able to make any difference at all. It is the divine force in us makes a difference. So once you are making a difference, you are part in ego. Once the difference being made through you, you appreciate and you become grateful.
I appreciate that. And I feel grateful and I feel motivated. Like I'm the first to graduate college in my family and the first to own a business. And this morning, like most of my family of origin is trapped in poverty. And I can't help but to think if they were not in poverty, that maybe some of the things that they struggle with would be a different experience, right? I have a 15-year-old in Metro Hospital this morning with a bullet in his head because somebody drove up beside him and opened fire. And he's hanging with the wrong crowd, so he contributed to that. But I wonder if he was at university school or even in Shaker Heights, or if he had swim lessons or regular vacation or Kumon tutoring, if his activities and actions may have been different. You know, I'm in Chicago now and I see a lot of young people with backpacks on, you know, working for Google and Microsoft, and it's wonderful. They're making a lovely salary and they live in great neighborhoods. And then like 5 miles away in a city called Inglewood, there's a 20-year death gap. Like the prediction, the statistics, if you live in this community 5 miles away from downtown Chicago, you are likely to die 20 years earlier just because of your zip code. I feel called to do something about that. I don't know what I can do about it. I'm grateful. And can I stay in this family of origin that has all this lack and scarcity? Or do I apply myself to use the gifts that I've been given to, I don't know, to change things? So I struggle with this. I appreciate this conversation. I really do, because I don't want it to be parked in ego and greed. But I don't want. I have an uncle who had dentures. He had cancer in the mouth, and they had to remove some stuff. And he got dentures, and because he couldn't pay the copay, they would not give him the dentures. So to me, my ego, my talents, and my gifts say there's something wrong here. Like I should be able to write the check. These are basic needs. This is not buying a $30,000 purse.
Right.
A struggle.
Wow. Kim, Ranjanjeet,
Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to address that, if you don't mind. Hi, Kim. My name is Kai, and I certainly understand because I work in a population and demographic, and Ratanjit knows that, where these types of issues are very commonplace. But I want to say to you that you can't regret or feel bad about your success, because what it has taken to get you where you are was necessary. There's nothing that you need to change about your journey. It's just about your understanding moving forward. When I'm listening to the conversation again, I'll still say the same thing, and I hope, Ranjanjit, you'll explain it to me maybe at another time. But when I hear this conversation, I'm still back to what I said: success versus value system. If your nephew or family members had a different value system, then it wouldn't matter where they live, because the part that he's talking about, the internal development and the awakening of the consciousness, which makes us want and desire gratitude and all of the things that that elevated state of consciousness brings, when we understand our life from that internal perspective, that, it's not me, it's something greater than me. And you can still be thankful no matter your condition, no matter what's happening in your life, because you understand what's really important. As a soul coach, I tell my clients all the time, one of the first things I ask them is, what really matters? And once you understand what really matters, nothing else does. And everything that you do from that point on what matters. So Kim, you've got a great start because of who you are. Don't ever feel bad about what it took to get you where you were, unless you were out of integrity. But moving forward, you are the blessing to your family. You are a gift. And the things that you want to do, that you feel passionate about, in time as your soul opens up, you'll awaken to what those things are and you will do them. So I don't even know you, but I believe in you already. And I'm sorry to hear about your cousin, your nephew, the young man. If he's in Ohio, I am. And I work with young people in just that way. So I think that you are a great person. I think that you did what you had to do to get where you are. And moving forward, that gratitude part is powerful. Ratanjit taught me this many years ago, maybe 12, 15 years ago. He said, if you want to become instantly happy, become unconditionally grateful. And I tell you, it was a life-changing thing. So that would be my thought on that. But sorry about your family, your baby, and if he's in Ohio, I would love to speak with you later.
Thank you, Kate.
May I interject for one quick moment?
Sure.
I just
Sure.
want to say thank you also. Thank you for your beautiful remarks.
Thank you. Yes, Rakesh.
Yeah, thanks to all of you, of course. So, I just want to make it, this clarification that whenever this topic comes up, people have this dilemma in their mind that, well, that means I don't need to do anything. They're not the worldly life, and meaning the basic stuff we need to do to exist is not mutually exclusive from having that, ultimate gratefulness. And actually, it's, you just cannot live a life on this earth without doing certain worldly things. We all have to do that. There is a concept in Eastern philosophy called dharma. And dharma could be of different types, like, Rashtra dharma, meaning what's your duty towards your nation, for example. And dharma is an all-encompassing, multi-textual, multi-contextual term. So you can have a dharma towards your family, towards your society, towards your country of origin, or the world, or the humanity. That is not mutually exclusive from attaining this unconditional happiness. I think that comes from what, as far as I can say it, and from what was said before, that you have to realize that your existence, that we live on this world, is not the ultimate reality. And once we understand the ultimate reality of this ultimate power, and the oneness that you talk about, so you can do both. And actually, you must do both. Your body is going to die if you don't eat.
Yeah, it was very good point. My take on that is there are two ways to take care of your human system. One is how we do it, part in our fear, greed, insecurity, and ego. And there's another way to do it in this unconditional gratefulness mode. So once you are unconditionally grateful, so you are also grateful for divine to bless you with this human body. So you must take care of that blessing which was gifted to you. So you must serve this human body and take care of this rather than abuse it. So automatically, in order for you to take care of your human body, you are taking care of this mindset gets expanded into taking care of the other human bodies, which are also gift from the divine. So ultimately, this is the origin of a concept for business. So any idea which is going to add value to the human race is going to be successful. And that is your reason for going into business is not to make money, not to be well off, but to serve the human race. And from the idea or the concept of or whatever you have, which is going to make a difference. And this is all part in the ultimate gratefulness of which is serving the gift given by the divine power.
You know, a thought came into my head that if we, this is relative to the thought of the gratefulness compared to the ego. I think what we tend to do is we tend to say, I'm smart, I'm an expert, I'm a good speaker, I'm a good presenter, I'm a good musician, I'm a doctor, I'm well educated. All of those things we want to say, I'm very grateful that I am that good to be able to do all of these things. And our gratefulness then is still based on the ego that you just pointed out. But what's fair then is we also have to say, but I know that sometimes I'm lazy, sometimes I make bad decisions, sometimes I've done wrong things, sometimes I'm inefficient in these ways. And we also have to own those things. But we don't. We just look at the things about us that we're grateful for that are good. And where I'm going with this whole process is that I think the best that we do, the best that we accomplish isn't because of us, it's because we've allowed the goodness to come through us. We've allowed the power to come through us as the conduit to achieve being wonderful, being special, being educated, being smart, whatever it is, being communicative. It's coming through us. And really, what's kind of left with those bad parts, the laziness, the inefficiencies, the mistakes we've made, those are the human side. Those are where the human person took over and made those mistakes. The stuff that we allowed to come through us is all the good things. And so if I don't know, I'm just thinking about that. I'm not sure if it's making sense to anybody, but this is just with that new revelation that Ratanjit gave me that said gratefulness is the opposite of ego. I think I've been grateful for a lot of things that um, I had nothing to do with. They were just good things coming through me, and I didn't really realize that. I was giving myself credit for them, and the best things that I are because things came through me from that higher power, and I better realize that it's the bad stuff that's part of me that didn't come through there. That's the part that actually is me.
So in life, any times, any mistakes or wrong decisions which are made by us, we understand that is all made in the ego mode.
Yeah.
So anything which comes good out of us is all because of the divinity working through us. So we should never take a credit for the good things, always take the credit for the bad things. We do the other way around. We
And you know the
blame
beauty of
others.
that? The real beauty of that is that that's a that ability to come through us is endless. It's limitless.
Yes.
Okay. So when we talk about having courage to fight battles, we have the universal unlimited power that we can draw on to fight those battles. If we're just doing it with the abilities that we have by ourselves, it's probably not going to end well. But if we open ourselves to be the conduit, it's going to be much more likely to be successful.
Yep. Well, let's hear from somebody else. Any other comments?
Any other thoughts on that?
I have a quick one. Sorry, I joined late. I'm going back to what Rakesh said because I kind of had that thought that on one side you have unconditional gratefulness, but on the other side you have to live life. And I thought of what Bhai Saab had said many years earlier, that it's just a matter of point of view and how long you can hold this point of view in your life about gratefulness. So take a simple thing like you have to brush your teeth. And we think of that as something apart from everything else. But even that can be done with gratefulness, that we are grateful for this body, grateful for this teeth, that let us enjoy the food, and we are going to take good care of them. So I think that it the upshot of all these talks is that all the evolved people do some of the same things that everyone else does, but with a different point of view, And it is really hard to hold that throughout your day. It's really hard to hold that thought of unconditional gratefulness in every act and every thought and every throughout the day. So I think that is the challenge. How do you cultivate that constant mindfulness of being grateful?
May I add to that real quick?
Yeah.
So, see, that is where these concepts of yoga comes from. So just think about this. Why yoga is one of the most popular activity on this globe, irrespective of cultural, religious, financial backgrounds. Very powerful. Just recently, the meditation day was announced at World Health Organization, right? And over 300,000 people around the globe participated in that moment. I was one of them. That's where that helps us live our lives in that mode in greater proportion of our time. And so that's just a process. Then you start out, then you start to be in that mode more. If you do it longer, over a longer period of time, then your mindfulness abilities increase. So that's how I say it. So the yoga is a really, and meditation are really the two tools that can help us live our lives in that mode for the greater proportions of our existence.
Ratanjit, what's your take on all of this?
When you do yoga in the ego mode, you do yoga all your life. You become yoga teacher and you teach yoga and all that. Once you do yoga in the oneness mode, then every giving moment you are doing yoga. Same thing with the meditation. If you do meditation in the ego mode, you do meditation for half an hour. I've done my meditation. Or 1 hour. I've done my meditation. You are great. You are boasting the world about your habit of doing meditation. Once you are in the meditative mode, you remain in meditation in every moment of your life. That is what meditation is.
Good.
So whenever you are doing meditation in a confined 1 hour, it is not meditation, it is ego. When you are doing meditation, every given moment of your life, that is meditation.
The question is how you get there. So, it doesn't happen instantly for anybody. So
Right.
that's where I think the meditation, the practice of meditation, if you understand the core of it, it has actually nothing to do with ego. It's opposite of it. That the very meaning of term yoga is union of body and mind and soul. So I just wanted to just offer a slightly different point of view there.
Yeah, basically,
Good.
we do not live our knowledge. We share our knowledge. We talk about it. We speak about it. We write books about it. We never live our knowledge. We live our habits. And once you cultivate the habit of living in the oneness moment every moment of your life, you do not live in oneness. So it takes again, I go to that habit forming exercise which I have given many times, where you are witnessing in the front of the mirror your human body as a gift, and suddenly when you see in your eyes, you see the presence of the divine power. And once you do this exercise with amazing clarity and devotion, and that exercise remains with you throughout the life, throughout the day, and slowly, initially it will stay there for a few hours, and then for a few more hours, and eventually it will stay for the whole day, and then it will become habit of staying in that mode, and in that mode it becomes meditation.
Very short story. When I first met Ratanjit and started understanding what he was saying or trying to understand it, and I know he prayed, so he had a prayer room and everything. So I says, Ratanjit, how often do you pray? How often should I pray? I don't know if you remember this, Ratanjit, 30 years ago, and he says, your whole life should be a prayer.
Prayer.
And I said, wow, that is like, yes, it's important to pray. He wasn't saying not to, but he's saying your whole life, every action you take should be a prayer. And obviously, to do that well, it has to be in total gratefulness and oneness. And
Otherwise, prayer
I never,
becomes an ego. You go to church, it's ego. You sit down and pray, it's ego. I prayed. You remember that.
yeah, right?
But I think what's also happening is, excuse me, if I may, it's about practice. I think ultimately I don't know the gentleman that spoke before, Rantanjit, Baba Rantanjit, but it really is about the practice, because none of us just jump right into this understanding. It's experiences that we go through that kind of force us or open up our mind to that there's something greater than ourselves or something greater than this experience. If we say, I hurt, what I've come to understand that to mean that where I'm denying something, right? So, example, I client, if let's say heartbreak, or and they're not showing you what you want, but your mind is constantly on this person. Well, rather than, and this is something I just learned to practice in my life, rather than say, oh my God, I don't feel this way. I don't love this person. I've learned to say, I do love this person. You can dominate my whole mind and thoughts. And somehow, once you think of the worst thing, everything else just clears up and it just gets better. So I'm saying that to say that's one form of practice, but it's just practicing the practice. So when we practice the practice of yoga, the practice of meditation, it's just like an athlete. He has to practice until the muscle memory just sets in and it just becomes that thing. So our spiritual muscle memory has to be the same thing. We practice it until we become it. And once we're one with it, there's no more practicing. It's just being. And that still is evolution, internal evolution, consciousness evolution as we drive towards a higher self and a greater understanding of it not being us, but something greater.
What you're saying is good. What is Rakesh saying is same. It makes sense. You have to start doing this. But the question is, what comes first? If you do yoga and meditation without comprehending living oneness, that is waste of time. When you do first comprehend oneness and understand and practice oneness, and then you do yoga and meditation, it is going to start you into a different path.
Mm-hmm.
So what comes first? In absence of comprehending oneness, everything is a waste. Don't waste your time in prayers or church or meditation or yoga. But all those things would make sense once you comprehend oneness and live oneness. So what comes first is the understanding of oneness, because that is going to get rid of your ego.
Yeah, I agree with you, but one caveat there, once again, because, you may have that realization at this moment, but you're also very apt as a human being to forget that next second. That's where the yoga meditation come into play. So it's like she was saying, muscle memory, right? It's a spiritual memory that it fluctuates all the time in our existence. And so these are the methods by which you can actually make this more continuous.
All these yogi, all these great meditators ends up committing basic human errors of indulgence into all kinds of things, many of them sitting in the jail. Why that happens? Because they did it before they understood oneness.
But my question, Ranjanjeet, is that, but don't you have to, you experience life first before you come to that awareness? Like, if incarnation is true, then we're all on a different journey until we get to the understanding of the oneness, like through the experience. So, in a sense, doesn't, for some, I suppose, doesn't the experience come first and then it kind of cracks open your heart and your mind to begin to see the need for oneness?
So we go for knowledge of these things without comprehending oneness. So, one Nobel Prize was interviewed by Wall Street Journal, and after they discovered something unique or new discovery, breakthrough, and the journalists asked, now that we have discovered that, are we close to understanding the total concept of this whole universe? So this Nobel Prize scientist said, no. Every time we discover one thing, there are millions of more questions appear. So once you chase the knowledge, you basically discover your ignorance. It will take you 1,000 PhDs to understand how ignorant, how basically you know nothing. So less you know, more you know. The more you know, the less you know. So basically, to comprehend this whole human life is one basic understanding of oneness, which will eliminate the ego. Once you have egolessness, you connect to the wisdom of the universe. Then everything you do is a meditation. Everything
Any
you
word
do is a
from some people we haven't heard, Liz or Reka or Sandy? I know Sandy's got a game there, but anybody have a thought that they'd like to share with us?
Oh, I'll just share real briefly. Ray, the aha that you had at the very end about the ego and gratitude was just so, it really hit me too. So it's funny, I'm saying I'm very grateful, but I just, that is just sitting with me so powerfully of just giving all the praise to God and you taking no credit for anything. And so I'm just, that was just really impactful for me. So thank you for that shift in my thinking. That's something I really want to ponder through further. And I'm just so grateful. I haven't been on this call in a little while, and I'm just so grateful to be back and be a part of this community. So thank you for everyone's contributions to help deepen my understanding of oneness and let go of my ego, so I can make greater contributions to the world around me. So thank you.
So glad you're with us, Liz. Thank you.
just one correction.
Go ahead.
Allow the divinity to make the greater contribution through me.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for that correction. To just be, a vest. I don't know like how to frame it right. But
Change your
reframing
wording.
my prayer. Yeah.
Change your wordings and everything will fall in place.
Thank you.
Conduit is a word that I think is a good word to use, because a conduit has no value except for what goes in and goes through it. And I think that really works. It doesn't take any, it has value, because if it wasn't there, nothing would get accomplished, but it's dead, it's lifeless unless something good is coming into it.
I appreciate that. And thinking about a conduit, it does make me want to just work harder, I guess, in one way, because I have, yeah. So thank you. I appreciate that.
That idea came in through me. It didn't come from me.
Love
it. Reka, anything to share?
Hi everyone. Nice to see you all again. I mean, this is something that's been on top of mind for me the last few weeks, to be honest. Like, something I struggle with is currently in my life is, it feels like I feel like I've been, put somewhere to do a certain work or a certain task. And what I struggle with personally, or what I was struggling with, is that it felt like, okay, I've been chosen to do this task. I have to do this, I have to do this task. And why is it so difficult? Like, why are there so many challenges after challenge after challenge? If I'm meant to be serving and being used just as the instrument, right? And I think, and it's funny, about 2 weeks ago, I actually hit my head pretty badly and got a really bad concussion. So I was out for 4 or 5 days and couldn't look at a screen, didn't talk, couldn't do anything. And in those 4 or 5 days, I think what kind of came to came to my awareness was that the problem is in my belief system, because I think it's somewhere in life, we're programmed to think that, at least I'm programmed to think, that I need to work hard and I need to struggle and I need to hustle in order to be successful, right? So even though, yes, I've been put in this task, and I believe somewhere that I've been kind of am just being used as an instrument, I don't really live that way fully, because there's this subconscious belief in my head that I need to break, because I unconsciously, I actually still believe I need to work really hard and hustle and struggle if I'm going to make this task a success. So I guess the new belief system that I'm trying to implant in me is that, it's actually the divine's good pleasure to actually do the work that's been assigned to me, right? So like, this is what I'm trying to reframe my beliefs, and I don't know if this is right or not, but that it's divine's good pleasure to do the work that I've been assigned, to bring the right people into my life to do that work, so that not I, but what I should actually be doing is just resting and relaxing in the divine presence that's within me. So I feel like there's this element of the society that we grow up in, and that creates this belief system that makes us think we need to work really hard, and we need to struggle, and we need to hustle, and we need to, like, that's the only way that things are going to get achieved. But if, I don't know, my thought now, and I feel like I needed a concussion maybe to really get this idea through to my head, is that in reality, we need to actually be resting and relaxing and in the divine presence that's within us, so that the divine presence can do the work for you. And I find it's very hard to get to that. That's what I'm striving to, but because there's a lot of unprogramming that needs to happen, because I don't know, we've just been programmed to think you need to hustle. So that's
Rika, you are your real assignment is because you are teaching the young kids, right? So if you can inculcate oneness thought process in them at the early stage, rather than focusing on teaching them how to calculate, how to read, and how to write, and how to have computers and this and that. So you will change the world, because that is what is missing.
I have to practice it myself first, though.
The best way to learn is to teach. So you will learn simultaneously. Let the divine in you come through to teach them. And you will be listening to the divine force also. So that is your mission, the real mission, because you are uncomfortable, you are struggling because you are not following your real mission.
Noted.
Thank you for sharing.
Same thing with you, Kayla. Your mission to get these poverty kids out of poverty is not your mission. Your mission is to teach them oneness, and they will automatically be rich.
Thank you. Thank you, Baba. And I'm sorry for your concussion, Rika, but I'm glad. But I'm glad for your awakening.
All right. Any other thoughts today? This has been so.
Are we live next Saturday, Ray?
Yeah, but Sandy opened his mic, so he's got some words to share with us.
No, I was just going to share, since Ray, we were at the same event, that at the real estate event. This is great that we're discussing success. It's quite relative, and I think my opinions of success keeps changing. But I was having dinner with somebody from our group, and I guess after them hearing me speak on stage, they just immediately said, Sandy, this is fantastic. You're so successful, and speaking on stage doesn't make you successful or any less or more successful than the person I was having dinner with. So the discussion then became what is success? And our whole dinner was based around that. And through everything that I have been going through and continue to go through, my thought of success keeps changing. But one thing that has become apparent, and part of that was discussed here, is that every living moment is a success. And I'm just realizing that our journey is successful, and really success is now. The part of the conditioning, even what Rekha was talking about, is there's this immediate thought that would come from me, which is like, okay, I'm successful when, and then I would list those criterias. And then I think either Kai or Kim also brought up, well, when I achieve these goals, I'm successful. So if I don't achieve them, then maybe I'm not for the day. If I was supposed to do these 3 things today, and just peeling some of that away, just to understand that the journey is successful, and every moment is successful. So what I may define as negative or positive, somehow it's all positive. So what I may say negative, if the other team here scores a goal on my son, I, as that parent, will say, well, that's negative. The other side is going to say, well, that's positive. And regardless, it's a journey, and you could take that negative and make it a positive. Use it as a, hey, well, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to change this up. But during that time, in that now, is the success. And it's taking me time to appreciate it, but it's becoming a little more clear that that journey is a success, and every part of the daily life is. So it's so nice that we spoke about that today, because it is relative, but it's really how our mind thinks about it. So success for me in a lot of ways has been this right here, which I have the ability to go and see my son's soccer game. And I know for me, growing up, my dad was too busy running his stores and shops to attend any of these games. So this is success right now, and going home will be success, and the rest of the day will be success. And so was attending this call today. So that's all to share. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Sandy. More great thoughts to ponder here today. Living in the moment, being grateful for the moment, and realizing it didn't come because of us. It happened through us.
Thank you, everyone.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you. We'll be back next Saturday. If anybody is interested in having this put on your calendar, I set up this call now through Zoom on a weekly basis, and it's set up so if you want, I can officially invite you by way of Zoom, and it can just appear on your calendar at the email address that you want to send me. So it just helps you to remember, and with one click on the Zoom. So if you want to do that, before we leave, I'm going to leave this on. Send me your email, put it in the chat now. And that way I make sure I have your best email, and I can set it up for you that way. And doesn't mean you have to come, but it means it'll be real easy for you to remember and to click on the link if you'd like to.
Thanks, Ray.
All right. Have a wonderful, blessed week, everybody. Thanks so much for being with us. And we look forward to talking to you hopefully next week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.